stop the liquor from flowing into a nearby creek, which flows into the Kentucky River. A Jim Beam spokesman says the fire isn't expected to affect retail sales. The New South Wales Government's plan to raise the height of the Warragamba Dam will be formally scrutinised by the World Heritage Committee, which is worried about its environmental impacts on the Blue Mountains. The committee is concerned the raised dam would increase the extent and frequency of flooding in the World Heritage listed area. Here's the Mayor of the Blue Mountains, Mark Greenhill. Hi Mark, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So what's your response to the idea of the dam being raised?
It's an insane proposition. Basically, we're talking about flooding parts of the iconic Blue Mountains when there are other options available. Even as far back as the 1990s, the then New South Wales Government looked at spillway options which would prevent the flooding of a World Heritage Area. To give you an example of what we're talking about, up the back of Wentworth Falls is a beautiful valley called Kadumba. I defy anyone to go there and not feel affected by it. It will be inundated during times of flood. This is a serious erosion of a very precious part of Australia.
So people wouldn't necessarily lose their homes. Your concerns are more for the effects on tourism and development. Yeah,
I think if people are worried about developing the floodplain, don't develop there. And I think the other thing is the government could invest in flood mitigation downstream. The simple solution, as it seems, is to flood a World Heritage Area. No one's talking about the fact that the iconic Blue Mountains will be flooded when there are other options available to the government.
What are the costs of those other options, though, compared to raising the height of the dam?
Well, I'm not sure. It's impossible to cost what's lost when a World Heritage Area is lost. 5 million people visit the Blue Mountains every year. Many come because it's a World Heritage Area. There are about 42 species at risk here, and Aboriginal sacred sites, innumerous, will be lost if this proposal goes ahead. It's impossible to cost what's lost if this proposition were to be advanced.
The state government is arguing that the dam wall must be raised to reduce the risk of catastrophic flooding, as they describe it in the Hawkesbury Nepean River plain. What's your response to that?
It's interesting they say it must be raised on the one hand, and then they say we're considering the EIS on the other. But again, I think that this was looked at by the New South Wales Government in the 1990s. There are other options. A spillway was one option where water flow could be managed properly. I don't think the government's looking deeply enough at options that would preserve the World Heritage Area of the Blue Mountains.
So if the World Heritage Committee says no, the dam wall can't be raised, is that legally binding, or do you suspect the government might find ways around it?
What would happen then is that when you get World Heritage listing, you undertake to preserve the values of the area that's listed. So if the UNESCO and the committee itself was to say this shouldn't happen and it were to go ahead, then World Heritage listing would be withdrawn.
Are you confident that the committee will knock this back or not?
Look, I think the committee, having already said that the World Heritage values will be compromised, is likely, in my opinion, to go against it. We call on the national government, the Australian government, to intervene.
Mark Greenhill, thank you.
Thank you.
US streaming giant Netflix has signed a deal to take over much of the world-famous